Whenever the discussion about K-pop idols who, if they had a confirmed dating rumor, people would like totally riot, you know, just all hell would break loose, I always see any number of names getting thrown around here and there, but I never see anybody like name drop the entirety of Enhypen. So that's what I'm gonna do today, because now maybe I just live under a rock, which is entirely possible. But this is my humble opinion that if any single member of Enhypen got quote unquote exposed for dating, it would be like Armageddon. Like crazy type stuff. Enhypen has one of the most like devout K-pop fan bases I've ever seen, and specifically a very strong devotion to these parasocial relationships to the members. There is a boyfriend fantasy like I have never seen going on in the Enhypen fan base and with Enhypen as a group themselves and their marketing. And I'm very aware that that sort of boyfriend fantasy, whether we want to admit it or not, unfortunately does play a very strong role in most boy groups' marketing. It is not unusual in any capacity for this to be part of how a group sells themselves and how they interact with their fans. There's that Ellen clip of BTS being like, "Army is our girlfriend," or whatever. Like, they just say things like that happens. But I would say that specifically within the fandom, the amount of like genuine romantic infatuation, and I don't mean like, oh, he's so fine stuff, like genuine, like it's things are serious in the Engine world. Things are really intense over there, and I'm not necessarily going to put that on the fans, because I think, as I will discuss later on in this video, that is mostly the company, Belif Lab, and their marketing team absolutely leaning into this super hard. And a lot of these fans are very young. They are teenagers, they are middle schoolers, high schoolers. It is not it is a demographic where this is a very easy fantasy to sell. But I have come across so much content created by fans that like leans into this parasocial boyfriend fantasy in a way that I do not see in other fandoms. So that is what I wanted to discuss today. Also, just small additional disclaimer, I like Enhypen, I like their music, I listen to the music, I went to the Fate tour, they got me, like, it worked. Like, I do enjoy a lot of the content that they put out. I wouldn't consider myself necessarily, like, an Engine or a diehard fan, but I would consider myself an Enhypen enjoyer. So I just want to make that clear while making this video, that this comes from a place of, like, observing as I interact with this content, and not me, like, trying to just, like, take shots at random people. Okay, so first things first, what is Belif Lab and Enhypen's marketing team up to, just in general? So they are tapping into the existing infatuation of the fan base, right? Undeniably a large part of K-pop, and specifically boy groups, a lot of the fandom culture and interest in them is centered around finding these members of this group attractive or interesting or charming or what have you. It's about liking the individual. It's not 100% about the music, and I'm not gonna lie about that to anybody. It's not 100% about the music. The music, maybe for some people it's about the music, but on the whole, in terms of fandom culture, it is about the individual in a way that is a bit different from other music-based, quote-unquote music-based fandoms. So let's go through some examples, first of all, of what the marketing team is up to. So some of the most on-the-nose examples we could look at is their most recent comeback, EXO, and not only the lyrics in that song, but the fan chant as well. You know, the general, like, oh, like, give me a kiss, and the audience is like, oh, of course, king, and, like, I don't know, that whole shindig, that whole thing. and how this translates kind of into the rest of their discography. They have the other song, Let Me In, 20 Cube, or whatever it's called, from their debut EP, that literally the opening line is like, can I be your boyfriend, or I'll be your boyfriend, or something like that. So they have this general desperate lovesick lyricism. This is present in even their like quote unquote darker tracks like Bite Me. That song is just like EXO, but like make it really, really intense. Sweet Venom, same thing, you know, it's just very much like super hyper infatuated, like puppy love kind of lyricism, which obviously feeds into a lot of these marketing strategies. They're cultivating a romantic infatuation with their audience and feeding it. And you see this in their like marketing stuff, like their TikTok account. They have like straight up boyfriend POVs on there. Like, you know how normally in K-pop fandoms, the fans are making boyfriend imagines, and it can get a little iffy on the ethics of that? Here, Belift Lab, the official accounts and the official marketing teams are putting out, filming, making the members film and putting out boyfriend POV TikToks, right? So there is this very overt attempt to sell this. Like, it's so on the nose. It's just so straight up, like they're not even hiding it at all. And the thing that is different about the way that Belift Lab and Enhypen goes about this is, you know, a million other boy groups have at some point or another done some kind of boyfriend concept, lovely song about having a crush on a girl, but in a lot of those cases it tends to be limited to the song and the music video and the performance, and the general marketing stays much more neutral, whereas and also the lyricism is not nearly as intense. But whereas with Belift Lab, it is not just one or two releases here and there. It's not just the early days. It's not just, you know, restricted to the performance and music video itself. They are like repeatedly and frequently and overtly using this kind of marketing. It's in basically every single release they've ever made. And that's what sets them apart from other boy groups. So these marketing tactics are obviously reflected back in the fandom, right? There is some of the most overt and open public posting about fantasizing or having parasocial romantic connections to the members of Enhypen, and you just see it on a very honest level that you don't normally with other groups. You know, normally other people try and like kind of put up a front of like forward facing, oh, I just like the music, but not so much in Engine land. I think I've seen some posts and some TikToks that are, admittedly, a lot of them are very funny. They're in good humor. There's a lot of self-awareness. So it's not every fan, to be clear, that is like in the trenches and doesn't realize it. Like most, I would argue, either half or more have a good sense of humor and a good understanding of, you know, the nature of things. But there are some that are very infatuated. Is, you know, GF core, would he like this outfit kind of type thing, which in my opinion, now we start getting towards dangerous territory. So one of the most interesting things that Belift Lab also does as a marketing tactic is they have like canon fanfiction, canon self-insert fanfiction. And Enhypen is by no means the first group to have a comic related to their like group lore, especially in high labels. Like, that's definitely not new. But I read it for the sake of this video. It's actually not very long. It's like 6 chapters or something. And it is literally just a company approved reverse harem. Like, it's just 7 dudes who are just inexplicably in love with this one random girl. And like, that's the story. And I know that they expound upon that and in their trailers and in their music and in the other things that they have, but like, it's a parasocial, like, kind of encouraging thing to produce is there's these 7 characters who are named different things but represent a member, and they're all in love with one girl. We just made this because, like, no, this is a very clearly targeted, like, marketing tactic to make people feel closer to the members and feel like they're more involved with them in that way. And the parasociality has gotten to the point where the fandom, the Enhypen fandom, has beef with the main girl from the comic. Like, they don't like her. The parasocial relationship went so crazy that they don't like the parasocial fandom stand-in because, like, they just have beef with her because she has, you know, the reverse harem thing happening. And, like, because let's be clear, Sua or Chloe or whatever her name is meant to be a character fans can project themselves onto when there's absolutely no other reason to make a reverse harem romance comic starring your company's boy band all being in love with one random girl. And it's also a school romance. Like, this is also clearly geared towards teens and young girls who are still in school. Obviously, there's also, like, real fan-made fan fiction because this is K-pop, and of course there is. But, like, I'm not reading that. I'm not doing it. I've seen my fair share of traumatizing titles just by clicking on Pinterest photos, because for some reason all the Pinterest photos have, like, a link to, like, the most sickening Wattpad story you've ever seen in your life. I don't know what's up with that, but there is real fan fiction. This sort of comic boyfriend harem thing encourages, you know, the continued creation and imagination in that department. But we're not going to get too far into the discourse about fan fiction because realistically there's some stuff there that gets, like, super unethical when it comes to representing real people in certain situations with certain characteristics, and whether or not using their likeness and their name when they are real life people is entirely justifiable and, like, considerate. So, you know, that's one of those things where that's probably the discourse on the ethics of K-pop self-insert fan fiction is probably going to be something worthy of its own video. But I did want to acknowledge that does exist and that it gets pretty crazy. So just stay safe out there. So the next thing to ask in this situation is, why is it happening? Why does this work so well? Why do people respond to it? Why do specifically young girls respond to it so well? And I think a lot of this can be linked to this feeling that obviously a lot of women have, as if there are no safe men, no good men, or that there are elements of fear involved in dating. Obviously, this is not representative of the entire male population. That does not mean that there are literally no good men. It just means that dating is often, there's a lot of fear involved for women. So the presentation of this, like, perfect, flawless boy in the marketing team's, you know, glorious presentation style, it becomes like this safe space for young girls to explore romance and infatuation through their imagination and through the group, right? Through the members. And we've seen this in a lot of boy band marketing before. We've seen this in a lot of fandom before. Oftentimes, boy bands are a very controlled and safe environment for young girls to learn about their feelings and romance and infatuation and crushes and sort of get some experience in that area. That there's less fear, there's less risk involved than talking to, like, boys you know in real life. So there's certainly there's a lot of safety, there's a lot of imagination. Like, the appeal has been there. We've seen it in One Direction, we saw it in Five Sauce, we saw it in BTS, we see it in Enhypen. Like, this is very normal for boy band fandoms in that sense. And so they are just taking a page out of their predecessor's marketing handbook, but they are doing it very assertively. So I said this earlier, but this comeback is kind of the most on the nose they've ever been. Like, the entire music video is them, like, standing around in various locales and situations being wistful about, like, the girl they like. and the lyrics also reflect that. And obviously they are not the first K-pop group to do this, not even close. You have groups like TXT who did things like Loser Lover, where there's like a first-person camera / girl situation happening in that music video. Stray Kids had that one music video that was like that first-person POV that was kind of freaky. Sorry to anybody who liked that. I watched it because I was like, oh, a new music video. It freaked me out a little bit. I did not like that amount of eye contact. It was a lot. But that aside, my personal feelings about how that music video was shot aside, this is not the first time this sort of like unseen female character where everyone's acting like infatuated with, but you never really see her. This is not even like the first time that this concept in this video format has been done. And you never see her, you know. It could be their manager in a wig for all we know. Like, complete side note, but also I want to talk about like the complete tonal whiplash from the trailer. Like, why were they locked up in the trailer? Why did they have them go locked up in the trailer? I had me losing my mind, especially because none of the other promotional material, like, it completely mismatches in vibe. Everyone's speaking in a different accent, and they've all got guns, and they just have like a massive like 5-minute shootout. And it was taking me out because like they were not aiming neither. Like no one in this group has been in a fight before, much less held a gun, which, you know, I'm all for artistic expression, even if it's not one-to-one with real life experience, to be clear. But it was this comeback is not like, that is not the vibe of this comeback. There is no song even on the album with this sort of like gunshots and explosions kind of vibe, you know. But they're fully glocked up. I'm talking like machine gun, handgun, shotgun, like it was, I mean, it just completely threw me for a loop. I don't know, like, that's, you know, talk marketing, I don't know what the plan was there. Somebody wanted to do something that did not coincide with the overall image, and they were like, sure, why not? And they just did it anyway. But they're glocked up. They gave them guns. Why did they give Enhypen guns? I can't get over that. It's like, when I saw that, I was crying, like laughing myself to tears, which it was so funny to me because it was just so unexpected. Like, it just caught me so off guard. There's complete tonal 180 from the music video. Like, bro is standing around in a flower shop looking wistfully out the window like, I hope she calls me, and the trailer is him with like a shotgun, and it's like, this is fucking okay. I guess that's what we're doing. So what are the pros of this marketing strategy? Number one, money. Like, big money. So we know that the boy group market is incredibly lucrative because they tend to have very dedicated and hardcore fan bases. And when you lean super hard into that parasocial relationship and make it even more hardcore, you make hella money. That's why there are, you know, 7, 8, 9 million versions of every album. They want your money. They want your money, and they're gonna get your money because you care. You care very deeply. But it basically, like, it really ups engagement, especially because boy groups, like I said, tend to have less general public fan bases and more dedicated hardcore ones, right? Especially compared to girl groups. You know, girl groups tend to have very wide public appeal. They tend to have a variety of genders and ages in their demographic, whereas the boy group market, while it still includes a variety of people, tends to be more narrow in who it targets and who it makes its money from. So, you know, their cultural relevance is maybe not at the same level, but the money they bring in is hella. Like, hella. Okay? So this marketing strategy keeps album sales up and up and up and up because there's this very emotional connection to the group. Regardless of if you even like the music that they're putting out, you feel a sense of loyalty, right? So even if there's a release that's not your favorite, these fans are still going to put that loyalty to work, you know? And you notice this in the way that like music video views and album sales tend to be very high for boy groups, but streams and charting overall and the fame of individual members like as celebrities does not match the level that girl groups tend to achieve, and especially the biggest girl groups of right now are achieving. And so to make up that disparity in that gap in their relevance, the monetary gain from having such a hardcore, parasocially connected, dedicated fan base makes up that difference, basically. So they don't have the same cultural influence and trend-setting relevance that maybe a group like New Jeans does, but when you have a fan base that is so dedicated, you can make up that gap monetarily pretty easily. Now, the cons of this marketing strategy, which I feel should be fairly obvious, are things like overzealous fans, stalkers, increased mental duress of the general fandom and the group. It just puts a lot of strain on everyone emotionally because there's this parasocial relationship happening. And I mean, you see the way they get mobbed in airports, the way people try and follow them places, the sometimes invasive and inappropriate fan content that is made about these people. There was like that one like Imagine TikTok about one of the members, I forget who, it had like, trigger warning, it had like domestic violence or something in it. It was like crazy. People will like write anything, and that's because maybe they're also 13, but the point is you get sort of this blurring of boundaries of what is acceptable behavior and how acceptable it is to treat the celebrities in this way, because the company doesn't want to crack down on it or stop people or set these boundaries because they make hella money off there being very blurred boundaries. And the members as well make hella money and also don't want to upset their fans. And then so it's just kind of this snake eating its own tail kind of situation where you just have a lot of behavior that probably shouldn't be flying, but no one wants to say anything about it because it puts the money at risk. And so then you have safety concerns and like life experience concerns because it's very restrictive to be living according to the whims of the fans. I mean, we all remember the protest truck situation when the Bite Me choreography had female backup dancers. Like, it gets serious for these people. So, you know, it can be very difficult for them as a group to release what they want to release and do what they want to do and interact with who they want to interact with, because if they are seen within 6 feet of a woman, she's got a target on her back. Like, it gets mega serious for a lot of, it can be like straight up like dangerous for the women they interact with. Like, they have to be interacting with someone who's either significantly younger, significantly older, or not conventionally attractive. If you don't meet those requirements, you are in trouble if you're within like 10 feet of them in any direction. So to conclude, I just want to say, like, be aware of the marketing tactics that are being used on you and your fellow fans, your comrades, your brothers in arms, because as much as I've been a little bit harsh in this video, I do think it is, like, there is some responsibility on the individual to, you know, moderate themselves and not do and say inappropriate things as fans, but the company is also, like, absolutely making it 100,000 times worse at every turn, and this kind of marketing strategy is not sustainable for people for life, because eventually they will want to branch out. But what I want to say with this video is basically to just be cognizant of the marketing tactics that are being used on you and how they're affecting you. I'm saying you, like, the person watching this is like, it's personally just like totally in the trenches. I have no idea who you are, but I am just gonna talk like that for this section. But make no mistake, the Belief Lab marketing team want you to be smitten with these boys, and they want you to spend your money because of it. And that's not necessarily 100% reflective of the members themselves or what they want, and I think that's an important distinction. But I think media literacy and critical thought and just being like, hey, you know, the company is doing this on purpose. They probably want me to think this. There was probably someone in an office somewhere who sat down with like an Excel spreadsheet and decided to make the Enhypen boyfriend POV TikTok to get me to spend my money. And then you can kind of make the informed decision for yourself if you still want to interact with the fandom in that way, and if you still want to spend your money in that way, then more power to you, right? It's not about saying what you can and can't interact with or can and can't spend your money on. It's about having that one, a healthier relationship with celebrities, one that is not deeply parasocial and dependent, and just the critical thought to recognize marketing for marketing and see it for what it is and make your choices accordingly. So yeah.